I'll get into the rules and read over the rules for everyone. We do have some information up here that George Phillips from Reclaim New York wanted us to have, as well as we have a flyer for George Bazama. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's running for the Broome County District 4 legislator. So that information's up here, as well as a copy of all the rules. Before we begin, I would like to wish everyone a happy Constitution Day. Constitution Day, also known Constitution Day, also known as Citizenship Day, commemorates the formation and signing of the U.S. Constitution by 39 brave men on September 17, 1787, recognizing all who were born in the U.S. this forum. This is our 5th forum, and we pride ourselves on our format of allowing people to gather information on the candidates in a nonpartisan and respectful manner. We've had positive feedback on our platform from candidates from all 3 parties over the years that have participated, such as Donna Lapardo, Chris Bracco, Jason Garner, Maurice Hinchy, George Phillips, Fred Akshar, and many more. We've invited candidates for Governor, U.S. Senator, and Congressional District 22 and Sheriff. We have sent 2 emails and made 1 phone call for follow-up to anyone we could locate a number for. Shell Farley was unavailable tonight to attend, and she is running against Kirsten Gillibrand. David Harder was unavailable to attend. Matt Ryan has no contact anywhere, so we couldn't even contact him to invite him. There's no web page, no Facebook page, or anything else. Andrew Cuomo, Cynthia Nixon, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Anthony Brindisi did not respond at all to any of our 3 attempts to contact them. Tonight we have Representative Claudia Tenney, Republican Party, running for Congress 22nd District. We have Larry Sharp, the Libertarian, for governor. However, he couldn't make it either, but Andrew Hollister, his lieutenant governor running mate, is speaking on his behalf. And Marc Molinaro, Republican, running for governor, New York State Senator Fred Akshar, will be speaking on his behalf. Rules of the forum. They're listed on the front table. If everyone could write legibly, please. 1 question per sheet or card, put it in the basket of the candidate that the question is for. Then our board member, Jim, will ask the question of the candidate. We'll try to get through as many as we can by 8:45, 8:50 p.m. Any that we don't get through, I don't think the candidates would mind if I emailed them the questions and they could send response, and I'll put it on our Facebook page. There's paper and pencils if you didn't come with your question ahead. If during the meeting you can think of any questions to ask, fill out a card, raise it in the air, and Ted will come by and pick it up and put it in the basket for you. Reminder, this is a forum for the candidates to inform us of their own views and solutions on the issues that they see. Each candidate's going to have 15 minutes uninterrupted to speak about their political platform, then we'll follow with question and answer. Candidates should not engage opponent or discuss their opponent's views. It's about them. A white card will be displayed at 3 minutes left, a yellow card will be displayed at 1 minute left, and a red card will be displayed when your time is up for your 15 minutes. And we'll also place the red card up when the answer period is done. You'll each have 2 minutes to answer, up to 2 minutes to answer every question that's asked. There's tables for literature, so if anyone is interested in any, they can head back there after the meeting. Rules for attendees. I already went over the question. Turn cell phones off. No cameras or recording devices except for the attending media. Questions are limited to single-part questions. There will be no rebuttal or follow-up questions. Unless it's a second question you think of and want to put it in the basket, that's fine. Unruly and disrespectful behavior to any of the candidates or to our proceedings will not be tolerated. There's no shouting out, there's no harassment of any candidates. We treat our guests with respect at all times. If it happens, you'll be asked to leave. So that's pretty much it. We'll start with Claudia Tenney, then move to Andrew Hollister for Larry Sharp. I put them in order of when they had contacted me to join in the candidate forum. So it'll be Claudia Tenney, Andrew Hollister, and Fred Akshar. Oh, thank you. By law, I have to tell you, there's 2 fire exits here and in the back behind where the cameras are if you need them, but we won't, so we're good.
I am not Marc Molinaro. Let's give Andrew Hollister another round of applause. Spirited discussion and debate is always good. You know, I do want to talk a little bit about Marc tonight, and as the Congresswoman said, I want to talk a little bit about the balance of state government, because we're in peril this year. We talk about it a lot, but it's a very important topic to talk about. I like to describe Marc as an ordinary New Yorker that is going to fight, be a fierce advocate just for everyday New Yorkers. I've gotten to know Marc over a period of time, and he clearly is fiercely advocating for Main Street New York. I think all too often Albany has forgotten about those that have been gutting it out on Main Street New York for a very long time. I just want to talk a little bit about Marc's accomplishments to date as the mayor, the youngest mayor in the nation, and the Dutchess County executive. Marc inherited a $40 million budget gap when he became elected to the Dutchess County executive's office, and he has turned that into a $20 million surplus. He's provided 4 years of straight property tax cuts as the county executive. He's running on several platforms, but he talks very specifically about cutting taxes and having stronger fiscal viability. He wants to make the property tax cap permanent, and he wants to make government leaner and more efficient. In Dutchess County, he has shrunk the county workforce to the smallest it's ever been without services being cut. I think that's important. Government, as Andrew talks about, and as the Congresswoman talks about, government is usually fat, right? There's a lot of fat in government, and you have to find ways to trim, and he has certainly done that. I want to correct my new friend, Andrew Hollister, on a couple of things. New York is ranked 49th in business climate, and we lose more than 100,000 people a year. We've lost nearly 1 million people in the last 7 years. So the stakes are incredibly high. Things are a little bit worse than were described, and clearly we need new leadership. Property taxes, as I say, very, very important to Marcus, and I'm sure just by a show of hands, who wants to see lower property taxes? Does anybody think they don't pay enough in property taxes? And he has a way to do that. Every dollar saved is going to be put back into reducing property taxes. Something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and something that I'm advocating very fiercely for in Albany, is the state takeover of Medicaid. The state requires the counties to pay too much, and while that cost may have been capped, it's still too much, and if the state thinks it's an important program, we should in fact pay for it. Very simple. And you could provide, I see Mr. Huebner is in the audience, I'm sure you would love to stop paying the county share of Medicaid. It's over $30 million a year in this county that Broome County sends up to the state for their share. Now think about that. If we said to you in Albany, we're going to pay that $30 million, but you have to pass that along to the property taxpayers in the county, I'm sure people would be very, very happy. So it's something that we're pushing in the legislature, and Marcus wants to ensure becomes a reality. Look, the governor really is surrounded by corruption, and you've heard the first 2 speakers talk about this. This pay-to-play is completely out of control in Albany, and from that $8 billion that the governor spends a year, you're seeing people write him massive, massive checks. And that has to stop. And under Molinaro's watch, it will in fact stop. He wants to take money out of politics, abolish the giveaways to corporations, because that is in essence what is happening. Again, you're seeing massive amounts of your tax dollars go to people in the community, and then they in turn are writing very big checks. Once the ban pay-to-play donations, you get money from the state of New York, you can't write a campaign check. You can't do that. So keeping New Yorkers safe is very important to him as well. You've seen this governor with his recent pardon of 24,000 felons, all in an effort to ensure more people can vote. You're seeing a massive shift to the left by this governor. And, you know, he called me the other day, and he said to me, why is it that we can't get along? And why is it that we can't see eye to eye? And I told him, very frankly, because of your misguided policies. And the people that I represent here in the Southern Tier are not aligned with you. And for far too often, I think, Albany has forgotten about them. And we're not doing anything to help them. And we need to do more. The governor told me, he said, I lay awake at night and I think about the Southern Tier and what more we can do. I don't believe him. Does anybody else believe him? I certainly don't. Go ahead.
No.
Oh, you can't do that? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
That's okay. The way that the rules are is we're not going to have commentary from the audience.
Okay. I don't, that warranted commentary. You're right, it's very, very hard. So look, I'm supporting Marcus Molinaro. You know, I'm really splitting my time doing two things this year. I've been blessed, I've got the good fortune of running unopposed this year. I thank everybody who has supported us for the last 3 years. So we're doing two things. We're supporting Marcus Molinaro and ensuring that he gets elected so we can have some change in the executive chamber. And we're fighting to ensure that we keep the state senate. Because as the Congresswoman said, really, you know, I've often said this, in my short tenure in the state senate, it's great being in the majority because you can get things done. But more importantly, it's about the ridiculous policy that you can stop. And look at what happened this last Thursday. You saw 6 out of the 8 IDC members lose their re-election bid. And they lost their election bid from the far left. I spoke to a Democratic senator from the Albany region, the capital region, I won't name him. And I said, what do you think of the recent results? And he said, I'm scared. I really am. Because these 6 new members will come in and they'll think that they can change the world. And remember, I want to remind everybody, the Congresswoman probably remembers this, what happens when the Democrats control the state senate last time. Think about this, $14 billion in new taxes and fees. That's their answer. Spend money, right? Ocasio-Cortez the other day, all her plan, $40 trillion, right? I think she came up with $2 trillion, Congresswoman. She thought maybe she could raise $2 trillion by increasing taxes, left $38 trillion under her plan. People are completely out of touch with reality. So it is really important for us, if you have friends elsewhere in the state, specifically in the Hudson Valley, specifically on Long Island, to get those folks out and vote for the Republican candidates that represent them, because we really need to keep the state senate and make sure we keep it red. So.
Senator Akshar, where do you stand on the SAFE Act?
Me personally or Marc Molinaro?
Marc Molinaro. So when we say you,
yeah, sure.
for now you are Marc.
Yeah, he's Larry Sharp and I'm Marc Molinaro. Right. Oh, look, I think Marc and I share in this, in that it was a terrible piece of legislation passed in the darkness of night. Look, I may get some boos from the room, but I think that there are a few aspects of the SAFE Act that are important to have discussions about. Our position on this particular issue is repeal the SAFE Act and start over. Take the good pieces that work, the mental health provision, the enhanced penalties for harming first responders, work on those issues. But the political reality of this is this, and it's the truth. Republicans and Democrats are to blame for this piece of legislation. You can't just blame the Democrats, right? Because it passed in the state senate. So the political reality, specifically with Andrew Cuomo being the governor, is I don't think even in our conference, in the Republican conference, there are enough people willing to let a full repeal come to the floor. I support a full repeal. But then say you pass it in the Senate. never going to move in the Assembly. Never. The Assembly would never, ever take it up. In the event, though, that they did, and it made it to the governor's desk, he would never sign to repeal it. So our position is relatively clear. Try to take the things that work and try to slowly chip away at the bad pieces. But a full repeal, I don't think ever happens.
How did Mark combat pay-to-play and corruption in Dutchess County? Did he take donations from companies that received county money?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of discussion about that, and I think Mark has been really clear that some have made the argument, right, that people who got contracts in the county were in fact donors of his. He's been clear that the process was very, very transparent, and you can't make a comparison to what you're seeing under Andrew Cuomo.
Asking for specifics, certain members of national and state politics want to increase personal and corporate tax rates. What will you do about this?
I don't know enough about Mark's position on this particular question. So how about I send an answer to this organization?
That would be awesome.
And then you could forward it to the people who came?
I have the email that you gave us to contact you, so I'll take any questions that we need and email them.
Is that fair enough? I mean, one thing that people know about me is you're shaking your head in the back. Would you prefer I give you an answer that I make up?
No,
I don't want to do that. So allow me to get you a straight answer from Marcus, and we'll forward it to the group. Okay?
Okay, thank you. What is Mr. Molinaro's position on abortion?
He is pro-life. That's his position. Okay? Well, it's really simple, right? You heard us talk about $8 billion the governor is spending every year in failed economic development policies. Take the money out of that $8 billion that he spends and apply it to Medicaid. I'm going to go out on a limb again and say that most of the people in this room and many of the people that I represent would much rather, and the people that Marcus will represent when he wins in November, would much rather see that money go towards paying the county share of Medicaid, so therefore they could pass along that savings in property tax relief. It's really about prioritizing spending. And when we talk about how do you control the budget, how do you make things more affordable in New York, we overspend. We spend money on ridiculous things, and I'm in Albany, so I'm saying that there's plenty of room to do better. But for me, in an effort to pay for Medicaid, I would take the money out of the failed economic development programs that the governor is currently overseeing and apply it to the expense of the local share of Medicaid.
In your exercise thing. Would a Molinaro administration support any changes to the Family Court Act, particularly those laws that relate to parental custody?
I'm going with my same answer as before. I haven't discussed this topic with Mark at any length, and I want an opportunity to ask him to opine on this issue. Okay, thanks.
Akshar, should marijuana be legalized?
No.
Akshar, how do you feel about tax-free zones?
Tax-free zones?
That's all the question is. I'm assuming part of this may be, for example, Jack Kemp's idea of like an enterprise zone, or when you have these local development corporations that would give tax breaks to bring in business, or if you have like a payment in lieu of taxes to stimulate business in some economically depressed area.
I think they're all gimmicks. I really do. I think if we focused our energy and our attention on leveling the playing field, ensuring that we had a better business climate in this state. I'm glad to hear that Sharp and Hollister agree with Akshar. I sponsored the bill to repeal this capital law. This is nonsense. It drives the cost of doing business through the roof. And I'm not a fan of tax-free zones, special things to happen for special people. Just level the playing field. Make it easier for everybody to be successful. That's all that business wants. They don't want to be overregulated. They're tired of being overregulated. They want to be able to go to work, create jobs. I've said this often, that and I know Mark believes this, that it's not government's responsibility to create jobs. It's government's responsibility to get out of the way so businesses can thrive and prosper on their own. Business owners know how to create jobs. Bureaucrats in Albany don't know how to do that. As a matter of fact, all they do is get in the way. And under a Molinaro-Killian administration, that's exactly what they'll do. They'll make sure that government is out of the way so businesses can thrive and prosper on their own without government gimmicks.
Senator, what can be done about New York State advising people to come upstate, specifically Broome County, to take advantage of our social services system?
Read it to me one more time, I'm sorry.
What can be done about New York State advising people to come upstate, specifically Broome
New
County?
York City.
About New York City advising people to come upstate, specifically Broome County, to take advantage of our social services system?
Well, we fought City Hall on that. What's the name of the program, Emmanuel? Do you remember specifically? It skips my mind, but de Blasio was essentially saying in New York City, and the county legislator knows this, de Blasio was essentially saying, look, you need a place to go. We're going to pay your first year's rent in a place, and you can go to Broome County if you want. I think it's really a matter of ensuring, you talked earlier about how do you share ideas, and I said to communicate. It's really about ensuring that those lines of communication are open, and we know exactly what New York City is doing, and really push back on that, right? Mark was raised by a single mother on food stamps, so he understands the importance of social services. But to take care of people who are on social services, that doesn't mean you move them from one place to another place. You have a problem here, you don't solve that problem by moving it into a different community. You address the problem where it resides. And we took Mayor de Blasio to task on that issue. And I would like to think that we were successful, but it's something that we have to continue to watch and ensure that, again, New York City is just not moving their issues and their problems from New York City to communities upstate.
Senator Akshar, does the Lieutenant Governor nominee support the right to bear arms or not? And how do we know that?
She does. I think a lot of the conversation is being driven on some of the positions she took when she ran for the state senate. I think her position is evolving on the Second Amendment, and she's in lockstep with Mark, and there shouldn't be any concern by anybody in the room or anybody across this great state.
Senator Akshar, how do you feel about free college?
I don't know how Mark feels about this particular issue. Nothing's free in life, right? And while I am a member of the legislature, I voted for the Excelsior program that the governor put forth. It looked a lot different, or it looks a lot different in its final enactment than what was originally proposed. But I'm gonna offer my same answer to some of my earlier questions. Allow me to get back to you on that particular issue.
Okay, thank you.
So proposals are good, but you have to win to be able to implement them. That is the political reality. And Marc Molinaro and Julie Killian have a path to victory. And I am encouraging everybody to learn more about Marc. Go to Molinaro4NY. You can learn more about Marc and Julie there. And we are really we're in a precarious place. This is reality versus fantasy. Andrew talks about a lot of good things, but the reality is that Marc Molinaro is the only person running against Andrew Cuomo that can win. My guess is that there is not a single person in this room that doesn't believe we need change on the second floor of the state capitol. We do. And Marc Molinaro will implement that change. He and his running mate, Julie Killian. So I am encouraging everybody, as I am, to support Marcus, to support Julie, and please do everything in your power to ensure that your friends all over the state get out and vote for the Republican candidates running for the state senate. Because if we lose the state senate, we are in trouble. So again, as I'll end where I began, Marcus to me is just an ordinary guy who's fighting for everyday New Yorkers. So again, I encourage you all to support him. Thank you so much.
finished the event here tonight. We're speaking for Marc Molinaro and Julie Gillibrand, who are running for the governor and lieutenant governor. And how did you think it went?
It went well. My thanks to the organizers for putting it on. It's always good to have a spirited discussion and debate. Look, the reality of this race is that the only person running against Andrew Cuomo that has a chance of winning is Marc Molinaro. So I was here tonight representing Marc, talked a little bit about his position on issues. If I didn't know the answer to some of the questions, I readily admitted that.
Yes, you did.
While I
said that you would get an answer.
That's right. So while I have spent time with Marc, I don't know his position on every single issue. We live in a very large and diverse state. We're going to go back and get the answers to the questions that people had that we couldn't answer, and then make sure that the group of people here tonight get those. So again, I think there are a lot of things at stake this year, and 8 years is long enough for Andrew Cuomo. He really has all but abandoned Main Street, New York, doesn't fight for everyday New Yorkers, and I am convinced that Marcus and Julie will do just that.
Well, State Senator Akshar, thank you. I know it's a long day for you, and it's been a long event as well. We thank you for the comments, and we look forward to being able to speak to Mr. Molinaro and
Great.
skilling it again next time we get back.
Very good.